We'd like to welcome everybody. We're going to call the public hearing to order. We'd like to welcome everyone to our February 4th, 2025, 6 o'clock p.m. meeting for our public hearing. At this time, we'd like to say a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for allowing us to come together once more to you, Lord God. So each and every one that's in here, Lord God. And Lord God, as we begin to leave this place, Lord, that we go back to our places here and be just like you left, Lord God. In your Son, Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we'll open the floor for comments from the church.
I just have a question. So, as far as where y'all are at now, have y'all had any discussion?
I guess we're going through the process of the hearing. And then everybody just come together and give their, give their thinking or whatever.
I got you.
Is any of the rest of them gonna show up, April?
Yeah, Mr. Harris on his way. You don't have to have a forum before.
I understand that, but you would think they would care what the people thought.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the ones that work understand, but this is like nobody shows.
Mr. Dawn is on her.
She's
Taxes. I seen she was packed.
She called, said they were just backed up.
Because a lot of them really needs to hear what this young man's got to say.
Well, I left proposals for them.
Yes, everybody got the proposal that he left. Just want to make sure everybody got a copy.
So when do you think you guys will sit down and have a discussion about it?
Well, we gotta have before the next meeting. I guess we have to make a decision.
Yeah.
To adopt, to opt out or opt in.
When is the date to opt out?
It'll be at our next meeting, right?
I thought it
Well, the deadline is March 1st.
it is March 1st.
It is March 1st. You have to submit, if you're going to opt out, you have to submit your resolution to the Secretary of State by March 1st to opt out.
Even if they did the extension?
Well, so no. So good point. And in case anybody doesn't know, the legislature is currently, there's a bill that has been dropped in Atlanta at the legislature to extend the time for cities, counties, and school boards to consider whether to opt out or not. And if that passes, you would have until May 1st to make this decision. I don't know if that's going to pass yet, but it's being considered.
It's on the table.
Yes, that was one of the things that they went to the meeting last week. They did the extension. They told us about the extension and they extended the date to May 1st.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
And I will just add this, Mayor. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I think the reason for that is because there are a lot of cities, counties, and school boards all over the state that are grappling with this, and they're having to think through: is this a good idea or not?
Yeah.
And they think, really, we need some more time to consider this. So I think that's the reason that they're trying to give some extra time so that everybody can think through it and decide what's best.
I don't know if you can find an answer to this. Have you consulted any of the local municipalities since you were there?
I have.
And
Yes, I have.
and
I have one municipality that's still moving toward opting out. So, the others, there are some others that we're gonna opt in. Making a decision to opt in, so.
Mr. Lawyer, what's your take on being risky? You opt in.
So, yes, sir. So, if you stay under the law, and by the way, please understand, I do not have a dog in the fight. It does not matter to me whether, and I represent McIntyre as well, it does not matter to me whether Gordon or McIntyre opts in or opts out. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I want them both, and I've tried to tell them both what the implications of each decision might be. And so, if everybody chooses to opt in, if the county and all the cities choose to opt in, so they stay under the law, then they will be allowed to potentially put into place this FLOSS, the extra sales tax. But there's risk with that because, first, this county and all the cities would have to come together and they'd have to agree on what percent sales tax do we want to impose. And that can be anywhere from 0.05% up to a full 1% sales tax. And it goes in 0.05% increments. So somewhere between 0.5 and 1%. But let's say it's a full 1%. And the counties and the cities agree, let's make it a 1% sales tax. Well then, okay, they've agreed on that, but then they got to put it to the voters in a referendum, which should be on the ballot in November. And so the people in Wilkinson County would then have to vote in favor of the sales tax. They have to vote in favor of it, and that would allow a way to compensate for what will most likely be lost in property taxes if you opt in. Because I do expect, and I've told McIntyre this, I've told Gordon this, I think both of those cities, and I think the other cities and the county would likely lose revenue from property taxes over time if they opt in. And that's the whole reason the legislature provided the opportunity to do the FLOSS, because that's what would potentially offset those losses in property taxes. Part of the other risk, though, is if the FLOSS is agreed upon, which means first everybody opts in, and then you agree on a FLOSS, and then it is voted in by the voters, it only lasts 5 years. So you would then have to renew that FLOSS every 5 years to keep it coming. When you opt into this law, at least at this point, you're in. You can't get out. You can't go back 2 years from now and say, oh, that wasn't a good idea. I want to get out of it now. You can't do that. Now, to that same point, if you opt out, you are out. You can't get into it. With this one exception, so if you opt out, whether it's the city of Gordon by itself or whether Gordon decide if other cities in the county opted out, they could all come together and they could come up with their own homestead exemption that they think would be maybe better than the one that's currently put into law. And you could take that to your local delegation and have them present it and get it voted on at the state legislature. And assuming that passes, then you could have whatever y'all came up with as a different kind of homestead exemption. So, the risk is if you opt in, you are saying we're agreeing we're going to lose out on some property tax revenue, but we hope we're going to get that FLOSS passed, and we hope that once we get it passed, it is going to be enough to compensate us for what we're losing in property tax revenue. And I guess the one other concern I'd say, I think the other risk is, and I know Ms. Ramona from the tax office was here last week at your public hearing, and I think I was telling this to Councilman Powell after the meeting, but I'll kind of show it to y'all just so you see what I'm talking about. So she handed out this sheet, and this is a good example of kind of what might happen. It's just an example though. These aren't absolute numbers.
I think, excuse me, did you all get a copy of that
Did y'all see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we do.
Okay, all right. So what this shows, and I'm just going to go to 2026, that's the bottom number. Under,
I don't know, excuse me for a second.
yes,
Did you? Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. So if you opt in, if the city opts in, and so they are agreeing to not be able to collect as much in property taxes anymore. So the adjusted value of the property when you opt in would be $103,000 in 2026. If you had opted out and stuck with the system you have now, it would be $120,000. So the city would be collecting property tax revenue on $120,000 versus $103,000. I don't know this. This is speculation. That gap is probably going to grow over time because home values are probably going to continue to increase. Inflation will be there, but it will probably not be as much as property values increase over time. So I think the other risk to your question, sir, is the further out in time you go, there is the very real potential, I think, for more and more loss of property tax revenue. And I think a very valid question is a FLOST, if it even passes, going to be able to compensate for that lost property tax revenue over time? So I hope that kind of answers your question.
I got something that kind of goes with it and it don't. Okay, our water bills went up. Y'all will be getting 23% more here in Gordon on the tax digest next year than y'all got this year. That's hitting us citizens hard. We need some relief from somewhere. I mean, if it ain't capped, you got elderly out there on Social Security. You got people that can't work, low income, that can't even get their medicine already. And I mean, it's hitting people hard, and they're complaining.
Well, I want to counteract the statement made by the attorney. So what you're saying necessarily is if the city does not opt in, or let me rephrase this. So your risk assessment is the city would lose revenue in property taxes over let's say a 5-year, 10-year period of time, correct?
Correct.
If with the evaluation shown on Ms. Ramona's, we're going off of those, okay? But correct me if I'm wrong, the county's opting in regardless. So the only thing that happens if Gordon and McIntyre opts out is it kills the FLOST. It doesn't kill House Bill 581 for the county because they control the property taxes and the homestead exemption. So we're already going to lose that revenue under your example that you gave over the next 5 to 10 years. But we have no way to make it back up unless we change the millage rate by increasing the millage rate for them to get more taxes, or we come up with our own local option sales tax in the future.
No, I think you're incorrect on something. So the county and the cities can each do whatever they want. So if the county opts in, yes, they are now only able to increase property values for assessment purposes by the rate of inflation. But for a city, Gordon, for instance, if it opted out, again, under this, if it opted out in 2026, it's still collecting property tax revenue on $120,000 revenue home. That's, I think, the difference.
They don't control the values. The county does.
I agree, but I don't think the value doesn't change. The county doesn't get to change what the actual value is. They're changing, or they're controlling, or they can only control what the base adjusted amount is, and that would be only based on inflation. So the county is still going to go value the home and put a value
Yeah,
on
a value on it.
but their value, they may value it at $120,000. The county might,
Mhm.
but they could only collect taxes on $103,000. But the city would still be collecting taxes on $120,000. That's the difference.
But see, when we're looking at the value of the home and then we take the assessed value, the adjusted value of what the county is giving, that is the value that would be taxed on, from my understanding of the way that the law breaks down. So they tax, so say my house, $110,000. 40% of that is the assessed value, or what they say the adjusted value factor rating in there. So then for them to put their millage rate, you take it 0.0, I think y'all's is 635? 79, okay, 79. And then that's what you get off of the assessed value. And that's what the county factors in that adjusted assessed value, correct?
That may be correct. I don't know exactly.
Because
how.
that's what me and Ramona talked about when we were on the phone for about 2 hours going over both of our proposals. And I asked her point blank, I said, okay, Gordon, how would it be affected if they opt out? And this is how we spoke about it was, they don't control the values of the home and the assessed value that the county puts on them.
Sure.
The only thing that the city is they have their millage rate, that's what they control, and then that's the portion of the assessed / adjusted value that the county sets.
Okay. And I don't know if I'm completely following you, but I'm going to just refer you back to Ramona's sheet.
That's what I
Let
have.
me ask you
Okay.
something here
Sure.
before you answer.
Sure.
It's all in, it's not one or the other. I mean, if one city opt out, then the county opts out.
No, sir. So the county and the cities within it can all do different things.
Okay?
But they all have to opt in if they want to do a floss.
That's what I mean.
Okay. So, but for instance, Gordon could choose to opt out and the county could opt in. That's fine.
Mhm.
That's totally legal. But then there could be no floss.
There's no flaw.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, another thing too. If they're opting out, if the city of Gordon opt out, they'll stay under the current valuation, current method of collecting revenue. That is, the state get a portion of the tax, right? When you collect sales tax, the state get 4% base. Then each city get their own tax revenue also.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Because when I fill out my sales tax monthly, that's what it is.
Mhm.
Currently, within Wilkinson County, the tax rate is 7%.
And you still, let me ask this question, the homestead will still stay the same, right? Because we do have a homestead
Yes.
exemption.
Right. Y'all have, are you talking the one for, I think, 60 years and up or
Yes.
something?
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
None of this, whatever is decided, is not going to affect
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Correct.
That was one of the questions that we had earlier. Will it affect, and from one of the community, Zena, earlier this morning, she wanted to know, will it affect the homestead, and I told her it didn't.
That's correct. Whatever y'all decide does not affect that current
Homestead.
60 years.
Yeah, those are special
Yeah, that's that.
exemptions.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, on top of that, now with that opt-in, if you opt in, everybody will get the exemption regardless of age.
Right. Everybody would get this new thing.
Right.
The state exemption.
The state
Correct.
exemption.
Correct.
So they wouldn't have to be 60 or older.
No,
Right. Well, the people who
So
are
with
60, the people who are 60 or older are still getting theirs, but in essence, they now get an extra
Oh, wow.
exemption.
yeah.
Correct.
And that's what some of us need.
See the difference. Go ahead, I don't want you to proceed.
Well, and if I'm remembering correctly. Again, I think this is easy to see it.
Yeah.
Her sheet 2026 value 120,000. If anybody opts out, that's what the value is going to be that gets taxed. That's the value of the property that gets taxed. If you're opting in, the value that gets taxed is 103. So there's less that gets taxed, which means you're going to recover less in tax revenue. I think to his point, and I'm not totally following what he's saying, but I don't think the county is going to be able to say, well, we opted in, but somebody else opted out, so we're going to arbitrarily prevent the property values from going up to 120, for instance. I don't think they
No,
can do that.
they're not doing that.
Right.
The values will increase, but the assessed value, from what I understood from Ramona when we were going all of our proposals, because they control the property value and the assessed value, because it's usually 40% of the property value. And then they're capping the adjusted value on it.
Right.
And then that's what each city, whether they opt in or stay in or opt out, they use their millage rate to tax off of. Now, if the city of Gordon opts out and they do lose revenue, say 5 years down the road, and they need to counteract that, a way that they can counteract that is either come up with their own local option sales tax or raise their millage rates.
Certainly they could do that. Yes. Again, is that going to pass if you try to do your own local option sales tax? I don't know. Are people going to vote for that then? I don't know. Those are just risk factors you've all got to take into
But
account.
we're talking about counteracting the supposedly loss of revenue.
Correct.
Is what your risk assessment is on.
Sure. Yes. Absolutely.
Because that's the reason you're telling McIntyre and Gordon, hey, I don't think this is a good idea, because you could lose revenue in the future, and there's no way to make that up.
Well, okay. I'm telling them how this law is written and whether it goes into effect or not. It could absolutely potentially cause you to lose revenue. That's why I want them to think about it. I want them to consider it. Again, I'm not saying whether it's a good idea or not. I'm saying you got to evaluate it and think about whether it's going to be good for the city or not. Absolutely, I think there's a very good chance you're going to lose revenue over time on this. I think that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Right.
But there is the possibility, if you choose to opt in, you choose to follow the law, the new law, you could put in a floss, and you might be able to make up that lost revenue over time. But I think there are concerns with that, because again, the floss would have to be renewed every 5 years. Is it going to get renewed? I don't know. Is it even going to pass in November?
So what happens if it doesn't?
Well, so if the floss doesn't pass, you're not going to get any extra sales tax revenue, and you're going to not get the property tax revenue that you were getting. So you're definitely a loser right there, right off the bat.
Oh, guess how we're going to make it up?
You're going to have to raise your millage rate.
And balance the other side of the budget, which is the revenue generating source. We just had an increase on the water. So,
Now, I will say this, that's true, but do keep in mind, the water and sewer rates are different. They're different,
Yeah,
but yes.
yes, but I'm saying we just had an increase on the water bill where we got to correct the sewage system, which the city of Gordon is suffering tremendously from. You see what I'm saying? And so now, if this fails, we're going to have a loss of revenue, no doubt. Let's go ahead and put that on the board. It's going to be a loss of revenue. So now, how do we address, whether it pass now, whether it pass or not, it's going to be a loss of revenue instant. Now, we just had a hearing to hold our millage rate, and then we had to say increase for the correct terminology, for the mere fact that we did not accept the county's proposed millage rate, which was lower. So we had to go 1 point, which we maintained the same millage rate that we had in Gordon before.
Y'all end up with 23% more money coming in from there.
So
I can go back on the figures
we
and
can
show you.
look at percentage, but see, we had to do that to balance the budget because our budget was up. I spoke with McIntyre, they had to do theirs the same way. See, that regardless, if your budget does not balance, that's your only recourse. You see, that's the only recourse is to increase the millage. And so, we don't know how it's going to end this year. This is the proposed budget. We're hoping that we fall in line to balance. You see, and that's what we got with the accountant and everybody, and we had to hold true to that millage rate. And
You have to
because-
remember though, the citizens voted for this HB bill.
Yes,
We voted in.
yeah, the citizens did vote for
We
it.
voted
did
in.
vote for it.
And it's our pockets that are being hit. Ours. I
think it's,
mean-
when you say ours, we're talking about a city as a whole.
All
Right.
the citizens.
All
I
the
don't care who you are.
That's
It's
why I said
hitting
the
you.
citizens as a whole. You did. But now look at it this way. Everybody's voting for it, but it's called a floating law, local option sales tax for a reason. Because it's up to each municipality to govern which one would be best for their local,
I think people much rather go pay that penny extra at the grocery store or the convenience store than have it where our taxes is, you know.
That's about the only fair tax to you.
Yeah.
Sales tax.
But then you're still not sure if they're gonna pass it.
Oh, they
Yeah,
pass
even
it
if
if they
they
see.
The floss, you said they're gonna pass it?
They would definitely pass it. If it'd help them with that extra little extension.
they tried to splosh. I mean, you look at the splosh, they tried to splosh for them, and it failed. You see? And see, now the people that'll win off the top, that'll be beneficial, let's just keep it up in the open, as people are definitely property owners, those who own a lot of property.
Yeah. And big businesses.
I mean, who has a lot of property that will benefit them tremendously now. Am I correct saying that?
Sure, well, yes, the homeowner, so it's not necessarily business owners. They're not-
I was about to say, it only affects those 1,700 residents in Wilkinson County, 350 residents in Gordon, out of 1,151 tracts. So you're talking less, like I said, less than 30% of Gordon residents would benefit from House Bill 581. Because the rest of them you can still tax.
Okay, now what you have to offer is a great analogy. Now the question on the table, I think council need to.
Let me ask, the 30% that you're referring to, is that homeowners?
That is tracts that reside in Gordon, tracts being land with a home on it, that have homestead exemption. Because this doesn't apply to Mr. Thomas Hatfield Lloyd that owns the building right down here. This don't apply to Cayman. I mean, this don't apply to a lot of people. It only applies to, I have the number right here. I think it's 340 tracts receive homestead exemption, not special exemptions. Because those are different. Those are if you're over 60, low income, all of that. 340 tracts, including myself, if any of you guys have homestead exemption, 340 tracts, which is less than 30% of Gordon's population. It's less than 22% of the county's population. So, I mean, yes, I understand his take on the factor of possible loss of revenue. Yes, 10 years down the road, if you cap, property taxes, you're going to have some loss of revenue. But it's going to be minimal to what you can tax other properties. Because they're not going to cap BASF, they're not going to cap Cayman, they're not going to cap Active Minerals, Brian Sapp's commercial lot up there. They're not going to cap all of these commercial lots that are right here on Main Street and everything like that. They can't cap those because they don't have homestead exemption. So we're only capping the homeowners that have homestead exemption within the city of Gordon. So, and I've seen this, so a lot of people talk about this bushel of money that we're capping people's property tax. But you can drive down through the city of Gordon, and you can probably figure out by just talking to your neighbors who has homestead exemption, who has a special exemption. I mean, because you can only compile, I believe, when I read the property tax law, you can only have up to 3 exemptions. So homestead exemption only gives you I think it's 8, maybe 9% cap or savings on your thing. But the special exemption for you being over 60 gives you a little bit more. There's one for 65. There's one if you're low income. There's another one. I don't have it with me, but there's like 8 or 9 of special exemptions that you can get. But the only thing this applies to is homestead exemption. Those 340 properties within the city limits of Gordon. So, I mean,
Still, what we're talking about is a homestead exemption, of course, that's not, doesn't impact the business. Even my business, we pay equipment taxes and things of that nature. All that is within the business. I understand that side. But off the top, homestead, the home value of everybody, whether you're of age or not, will immediately apply, qualify for the exemption if you pass that. Everybody, the homestead exemption act. Okay, that's really neither here nor there. The question is, can we make it up through sales? Through the sales tax?
Well,
can we make it up through the sales tax? And so what I think council, I would love to see is the current revenue stream that is generated from the splosh to give us a good comparative statement as to what the city will generate. Okay, and another thing, how will it be dispersed among the local municipalities? That question was brought up.
Yeah, it was brought up and Ms. Ramona said they would have to get together
They have to get together.
and figure that out. But
Figure it
then it came later on and said that it's according to the population for each city.
But
Per capita.
that was not ironclad.
So I don't know.
That was not ironclad. That's the way it is now according to the splosh.
Mhm.
But the floss is not that way.
Different.
so going back to Councilman Powell's thing, if you look in your proposal, these numbers came from the county. These numbers came from, I called up here and got some requests from Tawana. The splosh revenue, you can go to your Georgia Department of Revenue and look it up for anybody that's in here. The county brought in last year in splosh $1,404,935.07. Okay,
Say that again.
I got the
Mhm.
report.
$404,935.07. And how that is dispersed now is we were at 29% of Wilkinson County's population, but during the census we dropped to 20.09%. So 20.09% of that 1.4 blah 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 is $282,978.74. That is the 1 cent splost tax that you have now. Now, like the attorney said, you guys would come together and decide whether it would be either 0.05 up to 1%. That is something you and the things. So what I did was I took what the flossed up to 1 cent and calculated the expected revenue from flossed for the city of Gordon, basing on what splosh brought in.
Okay.
And that would be that 282,852 if you elected the 1 cent or the 1%. But again, I understand his concerns regarding if the floss even enacts. But the county is going to opt in. I spoke to a few people regarding the McIntyre Council, and we have 2 of their members and the mayor stating that they are going to, if the other 3 are enabled to. So I took a census today, and it's sounding like they're going to opt in. Now, they never told me if they are or not, but concerning the information that was brought to them on Thursday, January 30th, the mayor stated before everybody left that she is going to stay in. But it's not only up to her. It would be like you saying that you wanted to stay in and everybody else was against you. But two of the other council members stated that, hey, they like it, let's stay in. But like we were discussing before everybody came in, we don't know what their charter states, whether they have to have, 4 to theirs, because they only have 5 council members and a mayor. So I don't know what their decision is. I think you guys should talk it out with them just to see, because I have a hard time believing that, y'all know in the history of time, Republicans and Democrats have never agreed on a thing. It's hard to believe that this passed in the Senate and the House and everything, 92%. I mean, I have the vote somewhere in here. And it is such a bad bill that all of the other municipalities in Wilkinson County are opting in except McIntyre and Gordon. Now, between McIntyre and Gordon, yes, I will say we are collectively the bigger populations. We have a lot more to lose on capping the homestead exemption. But if the county is opting in and they're going to start lowering theirs and the revenue, lowers over the next 5 to 10 years and there's a loss of revenue, why don't we try at least to make that revenue up by trying to enact a floss? But it kills the whole thing if anybody opts out. So if McIntyre waits to the last minute and they say, okay, yeah, we're going to opt in, Gordon said, no, we don't see the value in it, and opts out, then you're not only hurting yourself, but you're hurting the municipalities that have opted in. So they're like Danville, Allentown, Toomsboro. I mean, I see in the next 5 years with their loss of revenue, they're going to become incorporated. Now, of course, that's on their own doing. Their city council voted it in. But it's because of McIntyre and Gordon, if they choose to opt out, they can't enact the floss. Or they can't put the floss on the ballot for them to enact it. So, I mean, I guess it's a we thing as a county, not as just a city.
Let me ask you this. You gave us the figures about the, and you gave the example of the splash, and you gave us the, if we do opt in, you gave us the figures of the 282,000.
Now that, like I said, that's if we go up to that 1%.
1%, yes.
Those numbers could change if y'all all sit down and say, we're only going to do 0.50.
Okay, let me ask you this. What if it don't pass?
I mean, there's going to be a lost revenue regardless. That's what we discussed earlier. I mean, because the county controls the property values and the assessed and the adjusted and all of that. So, I mean, yes, necessarily, Gordon opts out, you guys get to tax, how you've been doing on the assessed value. Y'all aren't really taxing on the property value itself. At least that's the way Ramona explained it to me. But a good thing would be to reach out to her and ask her. And I mean, that's what my research studied to me today. And I talked with Senator Rick Williams and Senator friend of mine, Randy Robertson in Harris County. And they all seem to collectively agree that that's how it works.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know. But, I mean, y'all do with that information as you please. It's
What you got to do also, you want to assess that to the county, what they're going to do, make sure they have the proper revenue flow in to balance their budget. And that's why Ramona had to put this disclaimer out, because that was a large valuation. And everybody had issue with their property taxes increase. Do you recall her saying that? She said that you shouldn't have to worry about that anymore, because it was the last time it was done, it was in 2008. You recall her saying that?
Mhm.
So pretty much, as far as the property value is pretty much current now. I think that they would still have to, but Gordon's facing the same thing as relates to the water and sewage. You see, because the water and sewage had not been properly implemented over the years to keep up with the sewage system. You see, and it's cost of living everywhere. That's a given fact. And I wish it would go away, but we know how that works. Everything ain't gonna continue to rise in cost. But he pointed one other fact, issue we need to consider is that the appraised value going up, incrementing year after year, you're gonna lose those because it's capped for the next 5 years. See? Now, see, getting that now, I'm not a fan of taxes. Let's look at the flip side. What, from a citywide, is there growth in the county? That's what we have to ask ourselves. Is there growth in the county from a commercial aspect of things, from a commercial side, that would enable us to actually generate a lot of sales? You see, those are things we have to put on the table. And so, how are we building as a county? Because we are in competition with other counties. So that's the thing. That's the main sticking point with me. Is that can I see the growth in the county, not homes now? Homes are irrelevant. The back of the citizens deserve all the break that they can. The thing is, what can we do as a county to make sure that we can keep Wilkinson County competitive with the other surrounding counties? Because if we do not, we're not going to have the revenue from sales. So I think that in a nutshell should give us a good picture as where we are. You see? Because let's say if we pass the SPLOST, stay all in, and the FLOSS rather, and we in, and somehow even with the county, everybody opting in, we don't have enough revenue from the county to dispense among the cities. What do we do then? Because the city still has to function. You see, each municipality has to function. You see, so how do you balance your budget? What choices do you have? You locked in for the next 5 years. And even if it passes, like you said, it comes up again the next 5 years. So it seems to me they should have had to be aware, at least everybody should have been able to opt in again after a 5-year period. That would have made more sense.
Councilman, to that point, I think you're absolutely right. I think it would have been a much better bill if, just like the FLOSS only being at the last 5 years, if there was some sort of period, 5 years for example, that every county and city could reevaluate, do we want to opt in or opt out of this? But it's not like that.
So
It's
it's
not.
not have a choice after that.
So right, as it stands, right now, you have to make a decision. We're either going to follow this new law or we're going to opt out. And you're done at that point. You
That's
make a
where
decision.
it's time for y'all to make a decision where you can cut back so it's not costing us, the
Cut back on what?
citizens,
What we gonna cut back
on everything.
Give me an example.
I
Give me an
mean,
example.
Give you one example.
Yeah.
Money being wasted that shouldn't be wasted.
On what? Give me a calculator.
How many classes you took was mandatory?
How many classes I took that was mandatory? I took.
How many was non-mandatory? Let me ask you that.
How many classes that was non-mandatory?
Uh-huh.
That I took. I went to the new council training. That's the only thing that was mandatory. The other ones was informative, like I said. When it wasn't mandatory, but did it give some benefit to the city?
There was a vote from this council a couple of weeks ago to cut back on everything.
Let me answer that question. We also brought that into the budget. CPA was here. What did he say about the travel and the training budget? Everything was good. Everything was balanced. Everything was just like it was before. See, look, you can't position yourself to prosper by cutting on. That's what I try to get council to see. It's got to be both. It's got to be cutting and it has to be growth.
What
It
I'm
can't be
saying,
one- it
if
can't be
it's
one.
there, it don't mean, hey, let's go spend it.
Okay.
Because there's emergencies that come up, like Gordon, all this money, y'all just had to withdraw 100,000. It left, what, 120 maybe?
150 approximately.
I mean, You gotta meet next payroll. How y'all gonna do that? Cause-
Wait, hold on a second. I wanna make sure you understand that. See, that's why I said we gotta make sure we use the proper terminology. Okay, let me address that for you. The reason why we had to get the transfer from the Georgia Fund 1 has been for the mere fact our tax digest hadn't come in. That was the delay at the county. That has nothing to do with the city of Gordon. So as soon as they disperse the tax digest, we'll be back on track. Am I correct?
Correct.
Am I correct?
Correct.
It's gonna help, it's gonna help a lot.
We'll be back on track. Now here's the caveat. Here's the caveat with that I need you to consider also. With that being the case, are we still gonna generate the revenue through this local option sales tax in order to keep the city afloat?
People did it before.
Say it again.
They've done it before.
Yeah, they've done it before, but here's the only expense. We're not spending money. When you say spending money on training, you can look at our budget on travel. On travel, the travel budget is a minimum, and they brought up our council members. The budget is a minimum.
I know there's
We get-
hearings
we get
on
around about
the
two-
HB bill, but like 17,000 paid to an attorney that wasn't voted on legal by council. That's $17,000 that could have paid a bill.
Okay, look, there again, the budget was balanced. Okay, the budget was balanced. The 17,000 on the attorney bill, I think that was on point. That was within the budget before I came in. That was in the previous year budget. Am I correct? Okay, all right. That was in the previous year budget. Now it was in the budget.
It shouldn't have been.
Well, I wasn't in there, but the thing was, it was in the budget, and it was taken care of. So that had no impact on the last year's budget. Just like it won't have that impact on next year's budget. But here's the caveat again. What do you gotta do? What are we gonna do to balance the budget here on? The thing with the floss was on the table. I'm getting back to the cutting thing. The cutting, I think you get what you pay for. We got, we went to the training. I think we met Mr. Jack there. I think it was beneficial from the city, from our perspective. Our bills are lower. Our bills are lower.
Well, I'm gonna go on record. You here. April, you got thrown under the rug several months ago. Y'all see where I'm pointing. That's y'all's biggest problem. Your biggest problem as a city council. Right there is where they see it. Right there. Y'all want to step up and you want the citizens to work with y'all and help like we want y'all's help. Y'all need to get him off some of these committees, because I'm telling you, he's bullying people.
Oh, well, I don't have no knowledge of that. That's him and
If I could prove it legally, I could show y'all where I get over 100, 150 phone calls. I know that voice. But
I don't have any dealings with that.
that's different. Well, hold off.
I don't have any dealings with that, but I know.
No disrespect. Like I told you, you got thrown under the bus. Like I told you, you got thrown under the bus.
Yeah, this might be a dumb question. But has it always been chiseled in stone on issues like this that comes up that it's going to affect the citizens of Jordan, the residents, that 6 members only vote for 350 people? Has it always been just a 6 people voting up here that's going to control the destiny of all the people? That's always been.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like
you
that.
ain't always been there.
No, I know the structure of government, sir.
You do?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It works the same way for every
Well,
municipality. We don't like the state.
I was in the union. I was in the union. And I've never had this before.
We'll let you have the floor. We'll let you have the floor for right now.
We-
Proceed. Yes, sir.
Miss April give me the floor, not you,
Okay.
okay?
Okay, come on.
Thank you.
You can check now.
All right.
But I've never seen that. I mean, look like to me that, everybody that it affects ought to have a say-so. And it ought to be damn secret about it.
But you know what?
No.
If that happened, we would be in a world of trouble.
Why?
Because we'll be just like we were just the six. Because everybody be pulling.
Well, I mean, you put a notice about what the agenda.
Mm-hmm.
They got notice to come.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't come, whatever. But the vote day, they ought to be allowed to vote.
But why would you not come to something that you don't know? How are you gonna vote on something that you're not even aware of? Because they won't come and listen.
I mean, that happens in all meetings.
Yeah.
People don't come. It might be they work in a shift or something like that. You know, it's,
That's a good question.
Yeah.
That's a very good, that's a good scenario.
Exactly.
It is.
I mean, you
And
know,
that's
it's,
a great, and that
you-
yeah, that is.
But just like you all are here,
Lack of knowledge.
and I imagine, I can't recall, but I guarantee you, most of you all been here when we had this water discussion. Am I correct? Okay, and you all heard the process about the water rate adjustment. We had to, they just assumed that we just did this overnight. We had to do a proper study. They had to have 3 hearings on it, not including what Mr. Powell did. But, and then it had to be ran, advertised.
The percentage was never given out to the public, and the options was never told to the public.
But in the meeting, he gave,
yeah.
Mr. Bill came
It
and
was
did that
there.
presentation where he did the percentage, he went up, do you remember that? When he
Yeah.
came and he did his,
It should have been put out to the public for us to see in our water bills.
But what I'm saying now, it goes back to what this gentleman here said. He came here to do the presentation. You see, and then who all came? Were you here when he came?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's what I said. The same people were here. So the question is, why didn't the rest of the citizens come? You know, and they had its opportunity, but it could be they had to work, etc. They just could, for whatever reason, you know. But the thing is, city council didn't try to hide it. We had to open the floor, and he came and did the presentation, and they had to do a rate study in order for us to satisfy the grant. You know.
Wasn't 3 public hearings supposed to be held for that?
Yes.
We normally have a public hearing, but we did not have the public hearings on the water and sewage rates. We did advertise in the paper because y'all had already voted on it
Because
before.
I know y'all had done a
In
resolution.
the meeting.
But we did discuss it openly in council numerous
Yeah.
times.
Mhm.
But we never did do any public hearings, but we did put it in the paper because y'all had already voted to raise the rates.
Mhm.
It was too late to have public hearings, but we'd already voted to do it, but we did advertise it in the paper. And put it on the water bill, but it's so tiny, most people couldn't even see it. The font is so small.
At that point, I don't think public hearings are
It's
required.
necessary.
Yeah.
It's for that.
Usually, in the past, we have done it for maybe just one out of courtesy, but like he said, unless it's an ordinance change or something like that, you usually don't have to do the.
I mean,
Well-
we had to make that decision based on the study.
Yeah.
You see.
Well, and I'll say this: y'all are not responsible for that. I will stick up for y'all on that aspect because I've spoke to several past council members and they were given the same study that you guys were,
Yeah.
and they failed to raise it because they didn't think that they needed it at that point in time. Y'all are just the ones to blame necessarily for that increase because it fell under your administration. And for that, I hate that for you guys, you know, because it was a drastic increase. Just like right now, a lot of people don't probably like Ramona and her team down there because of their increase in taxes.
Yeah.
Right.
But, I mean, that's neither here nor there. It's in there. We can't do anything about it. We have to focus on what's in front of us.
Yeah. I mean, but given that scenario, at least that issue is behind us. You should not have another big increase in that water bill
Yeah.
anymore if it's maintained. That's key point. But you still got to increase with inflation, of course, the cost of living. Because
Yes.
the thing is, you understand, if you do it incrementally, well, that means the citizens will see the difference.
Which it should have been done
Yeah,
incrementally up until now,
Yeah.
but it wasn't done.
It wasn't
That's
done.
why the big book.
Yeah, it was like that $1, $2 every now and then, and
but see, now Gordon, this time, I would hope that we're on par, and perhaps when you talk about the homestead exemption, you already get that, but look at the millage rate, what we are able to do, depending on what our budget is doing. Depending on the outcome of our budget.
Mayor, could I
Sure.
say a couple other things? And if y'all want to talk, y'all talk, because it's y'all's turn. So just to go back to a couple of points. So, Mr. King Nolan, right? So Mr. King Nolan I think he certainly makes a valid point when he says, short term, assuming a floss got passed, assuming everybody opts in to the new law, and a floss gets passed at 1%. I don't think you would see a problem right off the bat. I don't think that would be the case. I think down the road you would see a problem. And so my concern is, one, you don't know the floss is going to pass. That's the biggest concern. You don't know what the rate would be at a floss. That's also a concern. It would probably be 1%, but you don't know. Y'all would have to all agree on that. But you don't know if it would pass. But if it did pass, I don't think there's a big problem right away, but I think down the road there's definitely a potential for a loss in revenue over time. And that's certainly, I mean, that would be concerning to me. That's why I brought it to y'all's attention. I wanted to also answer a question I think came up at the public hearing last week, and it was maybe right after I walked in. I didn't say anything to it, but someone wanted to know, why are y'all even having the public hearings? I don't remember who asked that question, but it was sort of like, I don't even know why y'all even consider this. And so I want to make sure all the public understands, and y'all, I think y'all know this. Under the new law, which yes, was passed by a large majority in the legislature, but the law allows all cities and counties and school boards to opt out. That's part of the law. But in order to opt out, you must have 3 public hearings. So for you to even consider possibly opting out, you gotta have the public hearings. It doesn't mean you're opting out. Y'all may choose to opt in.
Right.
And again, I don't have a dog in the fight. That's fine with me. I don't care one way or the other. I just want you to understand what's going on. And you have to have the 3 public hearings if you're going to opt out. So, and I don't mean to disparage, I'm not disparaging Wilkinson County or any of these other cities, but I will tell you, there are cities, counties, and school boards all over this state who are having these public hearings and thinking about and analyzing and grappling with this question. So it is not at all, don't feel like you're a lone wolf. I said the same thing to McIntyre at their last public hearing. Y'all are not alone in having public hearings and thinking about whether it's wise or not for you to stay in this law or whether you'll opt out. And I mean, I know I advise you to do it, but I commend you for doing it because you ought to look at this carefully. I think you ought to hear from these citizens and the others who've come to these meetings and hear what they have to say about it. And they've made good points.
Absolutely.
The people did vote
That's
for
why-
this.
That's why you come to hear from the public. But
Right.
see, these people have been here before,
Right.
and they come pretty much to every meeting.
Yeah.
And so, and then just like the water bill again, why my water bill went up so high? You see, and that's what you're gonna get. I mean, so I just wish about the bill. I wish they, and perhaps maybe they can make some amendment and allow even those who happen to opt out to give us a chance, maybe 5 years to kind of reassess. And then, you know, you can see this. Because let's say Wilkinson County turned into a boom town, so to say. You see, then we definitely have lost, without a doubt, if we opt out. It's another thing. The county will vote on this, too. So the county, every citizen within the county will vote on this. But everybody does not live within the city limits. Just like we raise the water rates, the people on the outside of the city of Gordon are not impacted by our water rates. That's something else you have to factor into equation. But they get to vote on it. You see?
And I would say, you know, back to what Attorney Nichols was saying, and this is a reference when you were saying you just 6 people, you know, make that decision. This is good here. having the hearing. That way you're able to give your input so that whatever decision is to be made, you have them 6 people have your input and kind of go off of whatever the concern of the community.
They may not be here, but they gonna factor in your input, and people hear me. I'm still evaluating. I'm listening.
Well,
It's not. This is a done deal. But I haven't talked to any other. Have I talked to you all about what you all know? I think it's incumbent that we counsel. We can able to call each other and see which way to lean and see what it is. But I can't tell you that. But it's helpful information. That's what we're here to hear from the public.
But at some point, we're gonna have to come to a collective decision.
Yeah.
That's gonna, that we're gonna have to make.
I'll say this, and I mean, you guys do your own research on this fact, but from what I've heard and speaking to several people, they are working on a bill as well as the bill that he talked about on making this enacted in every municipality, and you can opt out of it. Now, that isn't on the table yet. They're writing the bill
I'm
up.
sorry, I didn't hear you making it inactive and one.
They're going to enact it, and you can opt out. So let me just state that, and that is working on in the General Assembly. That's what they're.
And that's probably why they give them the extension to May, so
that when he brought that up, I read about that last week. I think it was on Friday. Actually, I read on it after our meeting about them writing up the extension. But after speaking to, I'll tell you this, I spoke to 2 senators up there, and they are. It's in the works. It's not official yet, but they're working on to make this standard in every municipality.
And you're correct, because like I told you, when I went to the policy meeting, that's what they said.
Yeah, that they're working on it, and the local governments have no say so whether they're in or out. You'll just be in, which I have some differences with that. I think every local government is different, but when you look at it, it is beneficial to the taxpayers. And we brought this up, and this is, of course, after the meeting. Councilman Powell said, Monroe's opting out. They're getting a Buc-ee's. Houston County's opting out. Bibb County's opting out. But what we have to look at is they have several other streams of revenue. And I understand where he's coming from. They're opting out. They don't want to cap their homestead exemption. The counties are opting out, not the cities.
I think you're not understanding. I'm thinking that when I say Bibb is opting out, to me they should be opting in, because they got so many.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I understand.
So that's what I'm saying. So now they should be getting a whole lot. They're going to get a whole lot more from
On top of what
they had.
Through a floss.
But that's if the floss is enacted.
Yeah, but
theirs is already at. If you look at theirs, they have several. From my research that I looked at, they're already at 9 cents.
No, they're 8%, sir.
When I looked it up for the meeting the other day,
every month.
okay, I thought it was 9.
No, sir, 8%. And
So they're already one more than us.
Yeah, because they just passed that in the General Assembly to get that additional splosh. That is, they had 8%. They got the splosh, the special purpose local option sales tax, and that's where they just got $480 million. And they're trying to push the assembly. They're getting ready for that next one now, because they had to go ahead and pull that. You see, so that's why you see what I'm saying. That's why I'm asking the question. Now, check this out. Now, Bibb is at every other surrounding local county connected to us are at 8%, with the exception of Wilkinson County. They're at 7%. We're the only county that's at 7%. I feel it didn't pass. And see, I fill that report out every month, which is mandated by the state.
Yeah.
And you see that the revenue, even like online sales and things of that nature, they're coming in, even to my shop from other places. 7% Wilkinson County. You see? And so we got to catch up. So we got to, even with the squash, I think people say about the schools and stuff like that nature, you know, I think that's what that would pertain to. I got, my gut feeling is.
I was about to say that splosh that we voted on was shot down. It was through the
Yeah.
school board.
Yeah, my gut
No.
feeling, I don't know, maybe floss, people know, they have, if it hit them in the pocket, they're gonna have to vote for it anyway, because if you don't vote for the floss, the local council still got to generate the revenue somewhere. And where's it gonna come from? Off the back of the people within the city. Not the people outside. Within the city. And then you all gonna sit there looking at council, whomever's here. My God, why you all increase this thing so much? Because you still gotta balance the budget.
Yep.
So that's why make sure we see the whole picture.
Let's say, Mayor,
Yes, sir.
if you got any idea when y'all get together and discuss it and have a vote, will it be out for the next meeting, which that's the 17th?
Well, our next meeting is on the 17th.
Right.
So we may have, we think we have to do a workshop or something.
We can't talk to each other like this about this. We have to talk to
workshop,
each other
yeah.
individually.
Yeah, we can't.
We can't meet and talk
So we have to
about this.
schedule, like, if we want to need to do a workshop on it or
Yeah,
whatever.
I can call Harold and get his take on it, you know.
Yeah,
But we can't just,
yeah.
you can't meet. See, that's the downside. You can't meet like that. Workshop, yes, you can do it. But you can't.
That's what I was talking
Yeah,
about.
Yes, sir.
Y'all
we'll
get
together and do a
discuss.
schedule of a workshop.
I wasn't trying to make no issue while I
Yeah.
know about the vote,
Yeah.
but I have never been involved with something like that.
Yeah.
Oh,
So in
yeah.
order for us to talk amongst each other, we could schedule a workshop before the 17th and discuss that.
I'm done, I'm through.
And just so, you know, that would be an open meeting. You know,
And you
you
can
could come
come.
and listen to them talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. You done? Everybody's done?
Thank
All
y'all.
right.
I'm
Y'all
done.
so welcome. We're gonna do adjourn this meeting.
You don't have to adjourn, it's a hearing.